Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a public hearing we're having today. The City of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish Nations and their traditional territory upon which we gather with gratitude. We're going to call for the public hearing for Wednesday, May 21st, 2025 to order. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act to consider the proposed zoning and development amendment bylaw number 2025, number 2000.154. At this public hearing, any person present who believes that his or her interest in the property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given an opportunity to be heard on the matters contained in the proposed bylaw. However, it is important that all who speak at this public hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of this hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Those of you who wish to speak concerning the proposed bylaw should, at the appropriate time, commence your address to the council and public hearing by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. It should be noted this public hearing is being recorded and web streamed live, and the recording will be posted to the website. The main function of council members is to listen to the views of the public. It is not a function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone who deems their interest in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. If you wish to provide a written submission to be included in the record of the public hearing, you must hand in that submission to the corporate officer prior to the close of that part of the public hearing, dealing with the bylaw you're speaking to. Once that part of the public hearing has been adjourned, council is not able to receive any further information from public on that matter. The corporate officer sitting off to your left, my right, and she would take any correspondence that you have before we conclude the meeting. Thank you. During a public hearing, people sometimes become enthusiastic or emotional, regardless of whether you favor or oppose any particular application or argument. Please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotion. Restraint enables others whose views may or may not coincide with your own to exercise their right to express their views and enable all views expressed to be heard in a setting that is impartial as possible. For the bylaw, there will be 3 calls for speakers. There will be a 2-minute time limit for each speaker if required. If you already have spoken during the first call, we ask that you refrain from speaking again until everyone has had at least one opportunity to speak. After you've spoken, we ask that you follow staff direction and return to your seat or exit the council chambers through the atrium if you do not have a seat. I will now ask the corporate officer to introduce the only item on the agenda, Bylaw 2000.154. Ms. Weeks, if you would, please.
Thank you. So the Local Government Act may require a public hearing to be held before council adopts an amendment to the zoning bylaw. Hard copies of the staff reports and related information respecting the subject amendment bylaw has been available for public examination online and at City Hall, located here at 100 Jensen Avenue East in Parksville, in the Parksville Civic and Technology Center since April 24th. This afternoon, there's one item on the agenda, Zoning and Development Amendment Bylaw 2025, number 2000.154. In general terms, the purpose of the proposed amendment bylaw is to permit the use of outdoor street patio seating areas for food and beverage service on city streets and sidewalks within the downtown core. As of 10 a.m. today, Wednesday, May 21st, 4 total submissions were received in response to this application, with all 4 individual signatories in support. None have been received in opposition and none that did not specify clearly either support or opposition. And duplicate or multiple submissions from the same individual are counted only once, either in favor or opposition.
Thank you, Ms. Weeks. So let's get going here. If there's anyone who considers their interest in property to be affected by the proposed bylaw, to come forward to the microphone right up here, please, and give their name and civic address for the record. Is there anybody that wishes to speak to it, the bylaw as stated? Is there anyone that wishes to state their intention to speak? Going once, going twice. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to the bylaw? 3rd. Is there any online requests or anyone else hiding that we can't hear? Okay, they're all here, present and accounted for. Okay, thank you. That was a tough one. Correspondence has been received. I can confirm anyways regarding the public hearing. Correspondence has been received anyways in reference to this. That is on file and available for perusal from the public if you need as a matter of the public record. Correspondence received by 4 p.m. on Tuesday, May 20th has been logged and made available online and in hard copy for public viewing prior to the public hearing. All correspondence, including correspondence received after noon on May 20th up to the adjournment of this public hearing, has been collected, will now be received and considered by council and will form part of the public record. This correspondence will be made available for viewing after the public hearing as soon as possible. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that all correspondence received regarding the proposed zoning and development amendment bylaw 2025 number 2000.154 be received? Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Gaur. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. I'd like to ask for a motion now to terminate the public hearing to zoning and development amendment bylaw 2025 number 2000.154. Moved by Councillor Grenz, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. Now that the public hearing is adjourned, council cannot entertain further submissions or correspondence from the public on the proposed bylaws. Right. Now I require a motion, mover and a seconder to adjourn, please, from the public hearing. Moved by Councillor Beal, second by Councillor Gaur. All those in favor? Thank you. Public hearing is now adjourned. So now to the meat and potatoes. Good afternoon and welcome to the May 21st regular meeting of council. The city of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish Nations and their traditional territory, upon which we gather with gratitude. We have the consent agenda up first, folks. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation as noted? Moved by Councillor Grenz, seconded by Councillor Wood. Is there any errors or omissions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. Thank you. We have one delegation, I understand is going to be online. We have a delegation from Primex Investments Ltd. Regarding a zoning amendment application at 1180 Resort Drive. I believe they may be online now. If they are.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you faintly. If you could maybe lean into your mic a little more, if you could. Yes. Yes. Okay.
How does it sound now?
There we go. We can see you and we can hear you. Thank you very much. You have 10 minutes for your presentation. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Parksville Council meeting. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I'll start. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. Thank you again for having me. My name is Echo Ren. I'm a development manager at Primex Investments, the owner and developer of the site at 1180 Resort Drive, as well as the applicant of the proposed minor zoning amendment. Primex has been working with municipalities across BC for decades, bringing quality new builds to the communities. We have a variety of uses across our portfolio, including residential, retail, industrial, office, and hotel. As you all know, rental or mixed use between rental and retail is our typical bread and butter. Currently, we have over 1,700 rental units in our development and construction pipeline, including over 300 units in the city of Nanaimo and 200 units in the city of Parksville. In addition to our development and construction portfolio, our sister company, also known as our property management branch, operates over 2,000 rental units across BC which include both residential and the retail associated. As the owner and operator post-occupancy for these buildings, we hold high standards in our design and construction quality. One of our recent completed mixed-use project in the city of Nanaimo won the 2025 Vancouver Island Commercial Building Awards. So today, we're here to request an amendment to the city zoning bylaw to facilitate the subdivision of the site at 1180 Resort Drive to create a future retail development while we continue with the development of the 233 rental units on the rest of the site, which has already been approved and recently started construction. Specifically, we're proposing an adjustment in the density calculation method, essentially to calculate density based on the total area of the entire site, as opposed to the area of the land within an individual parcel. And B, to modify the floor area restraints on an individual commercial unit to allow for a larger unit, which we're envisioning to be a grocery market. I'm going to share my screen because I have a few exciting renderings for better visualization. Bear with me. So, please let me know if the rendering is presenting on screen. So on the screen here, we have the rendering of our concept plan. And as you can see, these three residential buildings have already been approved and currently started construction. We are envisioning also 3 buildings on the future phase here with 2 buildings, mixed use, retail at grade, and residential on the 2nd and 3rd level, as well as a grocery market at the end of the lot. Here's the view that you will have on the highway passing by the project. This is again the grocery market, and this is the associated mixed-use building that we're envisioning, as well as at the end bit here, this is the already approved residential portion. Here is another angle to better visualize what does the future phase look like. Another angle to look at, to get around the site. And essentially, this is what does it look like from, above with the grocery market and the rest of the buildings. Essentially, with this approval, it's going to be, we think it's going to be a great addition to the city of Parksville's existing landscape. Particularly, it creates a new community gathering place, which promotes social connection and engagement. The grocery market will generate new employment opportunities for the local people, also provide a safer and more convenient grocery access for the residents on this side of the highway, so they don't have to cross the highway to get to their closest grocery store. And let's not forget, this will continue to add to the local housing supply, supporting community growth and address the province's ongoing housing needs. Last but not least, definitely not least, I want to take this opportunity to share our gratitude towards the wonderfully supportive staff at the City of Parksville, particularly from planning, Blaine, Sarah, and Wendy. You have been also knowledgeable and incredibly helpful throughout all of our previous and current applications. We have also truly enjoyed working with the departments from building department and engineering department. Our team at Primex is looking forward to working closely together with everyone to make this happen. That wraps it up for me. Dear Mayor, council members, thanks again for providing me this opportunity to speak in front of you today. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks again for your time. And I will stop sharing my screen for now.
Yeah, if you could leave the screen up, if you would, Ms. Wren, if you could you go back to?
I will reshare it. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
if you could share that again. I was just going to ask if you could go back to the visual from the project from the highway side, the 19A side.
Absolutely.
And I can say while you're getting this done, that there's one group organization in Parksville very happy with the construction starting, and that is the Broom Busters. Are very impressed with the fact that there's not a single broom bush left on that property, and that has been a problem property for some time now. So we're very grateful for that. I see your equipment is in there, very efficiently working, and it's great for someone like ourselves that love to watch Tonka trucks drive around. It's moving quickly, so we're very appreciative for that. So thank you from the Broom Busters. Thank you from the Broom Busters.
Yeah.
Just the view from the side here anyways is showing this is going to be on the east side of the property, as if where the grocery mart is going to be closer to the intersection of Arbutus Road and 19A. Is that correct? That's the rendering right here we're looking at.
This is the grocery market, yes. So I'm envisioning driving down the highway here. The first thing you will see from our side would be the grocery, and then the associate mixed use buildings, and then the rental project that's already started.
Thank you. And is this going to be a phased approach anyways, where the western part of the property is being developed first? So it looks like it's the residential, the 3 buildings, and then the other buildings on the eastern portion, like where the grocery mart will be, the second phase of construction?
It is going to be phased as the residential portion has already been approved. So we have started construction. We're not going to stop until it's completed. Whereas on this side, the zoning amendment will take, as we understand, about a year to complete. Once it's complete, we will be applying for a DP and the associate permits to get it shovel on in the ground. But until then, this is currently what I'm sharing here is our concept plan. I know that our acquisition team has been talking to a lot of the local island retail brokers to get interest in the grocery market brands to come here and be our tenant. But this is a bit earlier in the stage in terms of planning comparing to the residential side. So
Right.
this will be our phase 2.
Thank you. And the reason I'm asking about this is being the phasing of it. I would hope that the sidewalk that you are proposing anyways, that's going to be on the 19A highway side and stretching right down to Arbutus Road. I would hope that would be completed like during the first phase of the project, because I'm afraid that if the first phase of the project is open up type of thing, you're going to have residences in that area trying to traverse like a goat trail to get down to Arbutus Road and to other shops that are at the other end in the Heritage Center. And I'm just hoping that this doesn't fall into the second phase of the portion. Would the sidewalk and pedestrian access and curb and gutters and all the rest that you do there, would that be finished in the first phase to allow safe pedestrian access while the second phase is being built?
This is a very great question. During our application for the first phase, I know our civil consultant has been working with the City of Parksville's engineering department to make sure that we are building everything necessary to make sure the access and upgrades are completed, especially for the residents to come in and out safely and conveniently. I know that there is further conversation happening right now between our civil and the engineering department again with this application for the associate subdivision / zoning amendment. I anticipate that will be one of the comments coming back, and we're not opposed to doing what's necessary to make sure that this is a functioning site. But unfortunately, I don't know the exact details of everything. What I can say is our interests are aligned with your concern here.
Thank you very much for that. Second part of my question is, like, this is showing the grocery mart, and I see maybe a coffee shop at the end. So looking at your perspective anyways from inside as well, there's more commercial units besides the grocery mart that's in there that's going to be available as well through that section. That's going to be your commercial phase, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and is there any housing units on top of the commercial units, or is it strictly commercial building at that point?
I'm not sure if you can see my mouse moving here. We are envisioning some residential unit on top of, maybe this is a better
Oh, yes,
view.
okay.
These two buildings, we're envisioning retail at grade, the typical size, smaller size retail with 2 levels of residential on top. Whereas I believe and for the grocery side, we're currently just envisioning this whole thing as commercial. But again, because this is at a concept stage, we still need to go through public open house and a few rounds of council meetings. We will likely have this more development more developed and more defined by the time that we're actually applying for the DP. Currently, this is what we have for our visualization.
I thank you for that. I realize it's only conceptual this time, and there's ways before we get there. So I'm just trying to think of the project as a whole, you know, on how one's going to complement the other, which I'm thankful for. I'm very happy to see the commercial on grade level, and I'll make a comment as well that the grocery store, although rather surprisingly, it's being offered at this point. In a recent public hearing at this end of town, there was some requests like, I hope any development in this area on a different project would include a grocery store. So maybe someone from your firm was listening to that, but it's a matter of public record. There was a fairly strong demand for a grocery mart. So you seem to be maybe going to help that out. That's it for myself. Council, I'm going to let it open to anyone else. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. I just want to say we're definitely heard, and thank you for acknowledging our attempt of you know, responding to the public needs.
Thank you, councillors. Any other questions? Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's more a comment because we heard about this project, I don't know, was it 18 months ago or a long time ago? And I recall there was going to be a grocery component. So I've mentioned this to people in my area because they're asking me, I live in the area, and they're very interested. And I just want to reaffirm the idea. I don't know if it'll be, like I thought something like, say, a 7-Eleven or something. We got a concept before, you know? And so the idea here is good. I don't know if it'll answer all the needs for groceries, but it'll be a drop in. But thank you very much. I think it's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Grant, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for the presentation. I especially appreciate the shout out for staff, which is always great to see because they do a good job. And good to hear the feedback on that from you. I have a few questions. The first one is picking up on the mayor's remarks around invasive species. Definitely looks like we're busting the broom there, but were there any other invasive species found on the property, and what's your plan for dealing with those?
Yes, we have. We actually, I think last year we got a letter from the city informing that there were some weeds on site that we have to deal with. At the time, the construction has not started. However, we had our property management team dealing with it right away, and the situation was handled within the month that we received the letter. Currently, I believe the construction team has working diligently on site, and as the mayor pointed out, they have gotten rid of everything that they need to. I have not heard from the site that there's any hiccup or any other concerns that they're not able to deal with. So I'm confident that we are clear on that end.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Well, further to that, maybe if you can check into whether there was gorse found on the property, which does have to be dealt with on site. And I don't know that that can actually really be transported anywhere else. But I'm not an expert. I would definitely recommend looking into that. In terms of the renderings, I really appreciate those being brought today. It looks quite interesting. I was hoping maybe you could, well, maybe a couple comments, and then maybe you can expand on what your plans are in terms of, because you mentioned building community connections. I'd be interested to hear if the development contemplates any kind of pedestrian square or area for pedestrian, sort of less car focused. I like the fact that from the street, you don't see a big parking lot, but there is a big parking lot. So I'd love to see a way to have less car focused interactions, especially with a lot of people living near the area, as well as visitors who are visiting around that area as well at Resort Row. Be great to have something along the lines of Uptown in Victoria, where there's a pedestrian square with opportunities for community gathering and much more of a less car focused feel. So if you could maybe expand on that, maybe there's opportunity during the next phase, if that does move forward, for community input on that. Maybe you can let me know what your thoughts are on that. And yeah, anything you can expand on in terms of amenities for the community and resort visitors through this development, in addition to the grocery store, would be great.
Yeah, for sure. So I completely agree with myself. My parents live on the island. I love it when to see, the Parksville being built without the feeling of its car in, car out, kind of like just strip mall feeling all the way. We have throughout our residential phase, I'm sure you are all aware, we have one level of underground parking. So it will be very limited of, car presence on this side of of our development. With the future commercial phase, we have been playing around with the concept. The reason that's showing such a large parkade in the center is there is a requirement for parking, and we do believe people will need car access. And to be completely honest, one of the reasons for this is these days with the tariff and the increasing cost for construction costs, it's really difficult to make it work with the similar one level underground as the other phase. So we will continue to play around with, perhaps hiding the parking a little bit better. But in terms of amenity for the local, especially particularly residents on the side of the highway, we already, once the rental side is completed, we will have 233 units. That's, there are quite a few family, large number of family units. So, easily 400 plus people will be, will be added to this side of the block, as well as we understand that there's a lot of people from the resorts. There is not a lot of commercial or gathering place on this side of the highway. With the grocery store, yes, they will have safe and convenient access to get their grocery, which, by the way, we also don't think it's going to be a 7-Eleven. No offense to 7-Eleven. But these two buildings, we're envisioning boutique retails at grade. We obviously, what retail will come in will be determined once we have the building and start our lease up. But I'm envisioning, dentists, little coffee shops, convenient, spots where people maybe need to get a quick, haircut. These little retails, sure, even though there are going to be boutiques in size, will function as a commercial area for people to gather and come and hang out. We are going to make an effort to make the pedestrian walk path more refined and make sure that there's places for people to gather and sit around. So yeah, that's my response for now. I'm responding to the concern about what kind of amenity we can create.
You satisfied? Okay, that's good. Councillor Gaur, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. My question to you is just going back a little bit. This site was an amendment to our official community plan, I think about 3 to 4 years ago. As you know, this is surrounded by the resorts and adjacent to a mobile home park. So it's very low density developments all around. Actually, on this side of the river, we have very low density. We have a regional district very adjacent to it. So it's kind of like fits in nicely what we have now. This development, just the scale of it, as you can see, a 6-story building with the possibility of, 233 plus another 72 perhaps in the future, we are looking at a very large scale development, all right? So what I'm trying to get at is this development is going to create a new commercial node. My concern is the impact of that new created commercial node on our downtown businesses. Would this draw people away from downtown to here? Because you probably haven't looked at the agenda, but we are trying to look at a few things here today to vitalize the life downtown and encourage business growth downtown. So if you can speak to that, how it may impact the downtown in your opinion, I do think it will. But I have one more question for you after that. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for the question. I personally believe there's all developments in a way forms the history and in a way helps the surrounding area in terms of activities, commercial activities and density. To answer your question about density, today we're not asking for any increased density. The 3 residential building, which I agree quite dense on the residential side, has already been approved. And we truly believe it's a great project. One of our marketing strategy is to make Parksville not as seasonal as it used to be seen, but a place that people want to hang out all year long, which is why we have a heated pool and hot tub and great amenity package with our project. With the commercial side, again, we're not asking for more density. We're just asking for the approval of allowing us to calculate the density for the whole site as opposed to for the individual lot. True, it's going to draw attention, which is what we fully intended for people to come and gather around here. But as you have mentioned, this project that we're building alone is going to add quite a number of people in this area. They will need a place to have a quick, convenient walk around the shop. I don't believe it's going to draw people away from downtown. If anything, the proximity of this project to downtown, people who lives in these 3 buildings will probably go to downtown and add business to the downtown core more so than, if the project's not here. So I agree that, this creates a competition to some of the business downtown, but in our vision, this is not going to be a bad competition. Rather, it's going to add to the increasing demand in Parksville and respond to what the community needs.
Follow up, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I should have finished off with my question with the density thing is, and I know it's not a development permit application either, but what I was trying to get at is perhaps some efforts that you folks could make to have this development fit a bit better into the surroundings. One thing I do see here is the access from 19A, which is not in the DP or the staff report, but I do see it in your rendering. And perhaps, especially with the resort area, we see a nice tree buffer as you come into Parksville. So I personally would really like to see a nice tree buffer along the sidewalk that's being depicted along the 19A. So perhaps some effort could be made to assimilate this development into the neighborhood. Thank you.
Yes, we can definitely take that feedback and take all of that into our consideration as the design progresses. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you. And Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to echo some of Councillor Gren's comments. The vast majority of the shrubs or bushes that are on the property where the 3 6-story buildings are going is actually gorse, and it does need to be attended to in a particular manner. So hopefully that already is being done or can be looked into. There is some broom, but a lot of that was actually gorse. But to the questions at hand, from my understanding, what we've got here is actually 2 requests. One is to look at the density and apply it to the overall, presumably without the subdivided property section. And the other is for the increase with the commercial building. A question I have is with the proposed increase to the grocery store, has that affected the request for the density allowance?
No, it has not. We're not asking for any more density. Currently, again, excuse me, I don't remember exactly the size that the bylaw allows, but to be able to have a grocery market on the site, the size that's currently stated in the bylaw will not be applicable because we need quite a bit larger floor print for a grocery market. That's the only reason we're asking for the increase of the size. In terms of the density, with the parking restraints, we don't believe there's anywhere we can be even as near as what the max density allows. It will probably go really under of what we're actually allowed here.
Follow up, go ahead.
Thank you for that. A couple of things that I do appreciate with this rendering is that the placement of the residential building that's along Resort Drive will provide a buffer of sorts, both visually and also somewhat for sound for Sunrise Ridge in this case, which is directly behind there. I note that the egress is in and out off 19A, but also off Resort Drive. So presumably that would increase some traffic there. I also do appreciate that the proposed residential spaces above the commercial go to a maximum of 3 stories. It's nice to see a change in height and not everything going higher. So I appreciate that. I will state I am concerned about the increased size. We have other grocery stores that are even a little less than the allowed portion on this property that are actually quite complete grocery stores. So that's something I need to think about, but I know there'll be opportunity for staff to give further information when we have time for the staff report.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't hear a question there. And I want to confirm to council anyways, you were talking about there was broom and gorse on that property. As you're aware, I live there. This is my neighborhood. I've watched the site for the last 2 weeks, and this is the first time I've ever seen a construction company actually bring in the excavators, and they actually removed out the brush, which included the gorse and broom. They separated it into piles, and they had special containers that they were actually they actually debrushed the entire site first before the excavator started doing any excavating. They literally cleared it, and I was just amazed that they have 4 excavators working on the site. But they literally had it in different containers, and then they have a sand and gravel soil separator working on site as well. So they're actually recovering the whatever topsoil there is, I would imagine, for reuse, because topsoil is very expensive to top load afterwards. But the brush, and it's clear, it's gone. There's no danger of gorse or brush or coming through in anywhere on this place. I've never seen a site sanitized from invasive species as well as this in my history of construction. I've never seen it like that. I was just blown away. I had to stop and watch them. Not that I actually like watching Tonka trucks and big trucks anyways. I do. So I will admit to that. But at the same time, I was very impressed with it because I know that gorse has been a problem in the very past. Anyways, it's very difficult. So it has been taken care of. I can reaffirm council. So thank you. Any further questions for Ms. Renz? Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
You know, Mr. Mayor, I look at this and I would have to investigate with my downtown associates in the business community about the size of the grocery store. I thought it would be smaller, and I am concerned about, I live in the area, but I go into town and I do other things in town, and this is what keeps the downtown area more vibrant. I'm just speaking my mind. And I am concerned about the size of the grocery store because it is not like a small place where you're going to go and get your milk or bread and a few other little confectionery things. It's bigger. So I'm just wanting to make that comment at this time, just so it's recorded. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would comment on that as well. The reason I like it, the size that it's being portrayed at, being from that neighborhood and so forth, and I know a lot of the residents around it, as you know, I walk around everywhere. In this particular case, I'm pleased that it is like a regular grocery store and not, as we say, a convenience store operation, and in so much as it means less traffic going across the Orange Bridge, quite frankly. And that has been brought up numerous times about you just having development of this end of town. It was brought up the fact that you're going to increase the traffic. This is going to perhaps alleviate some of that traffic concerns from the increased density. We're going to bring in a lot of families and so forth into this area that now don't necessarily have to go across the Orange Bridge. And so it makes it at the other end of town like a convenient source, and it's less automobile use. And so I'm very appreciative for that as well, because there's a lot of other residential areas in that area that are going to be able to avail themselves, not just this particular complex. So I can say that as a resident of that neighborhood, I'm thankful that it's maybe going to reduce the amount of traffic going in just to get, as you say, right now, you get that quart of milk and those hamburger buns, you know, that you need. You can't get it on this side, on that side of the Orange Bridge. So this is going to help that, and I think it's a environmentally good move, in my opinion. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Renz while she's here? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Beale, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to make a comment for the benefit of council, for our proponent, and also people in the audience, that some of the things that do come up that are very valid questions and concerns, but they're actually will be addressed at the advisory design panel. So that's when there's a much closer look at things like landscaping and pedestrian flow and so on. And I think we need to understand that at this point, this is a concept for that area and not detailed.
Exactly. Thank you. Do you have a question? Councillor Gaur.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Wren? Yeah.
Ms. Wren.
So I see a for lease sign. Is it still on site? Is there a reason why there was a for lease sign on your property?
Currently on site right now?
Yes, I think the last time I drove by, the sign was still up for lease. So I was wondering why that was up. Is there a reason?
Not to my knowledge, and I apologize if that's the case. We will communicate with our site team and make sure that we're not false advertising.
Thank you, Council. And thank you, Ms. Wren. I think we've asked a lot of questions that were far outside of what we're deciding today, but it's good. We need to have a visual, you know, of what the entire project is going to look like. And I realize that there's going to be lots more discussion before we even get to that second phase and what it's going to look like. And I appreciate you sharing your vision of what it could be, but actually explaining that the reason for your the application today is to allow for this conceptual design to happen in the future. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, absolutely. We're happy to share what we have, happy to hear feedback throughout the design development of this project. I'm sure we will be seeing each other again very shortly in the design panel and all these other council meetings. I'd like to thank everyone again for the opportunity for me to speak. Thank you all for your feedback and questions. Thanks.
We're looking forward to further engagement. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Council, we're moving on now to the first report on the agenda is from the Director of Community Planning and Building, the application for zoning and development bylaw amendment at 1180 Resort Drive to consider a zoning and development bylaw amendment. Do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendations as noted? Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Grenz. You want to break it? Break it up into. Okay, sure. Okay. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendation that the report from the Director of Community Planning and Building and dated April 13th, 2025, entitled a consideration of an application for zoning and development bylaw amendment at 1180 Resort Drive, file 3360 PZ N058 be received? Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Grenz. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Beale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for agreeing to
Yeah,
split
sure.
that up. Okay.
Just means
So
sorry.
perhaps some questions. I did get some information from the planning department, and I really appreciate that. Our staff is just fantastic, as well as some other knowledgeable people in the community to get a better sense of what the size of the proposed grocery facility would be, because that was of concern to me. I know it's not the only one. Am I off topic? No?
I'm not sure.
Can I get?
Yeah, well, we'll let it go to Director of Plan. Is that your question? Mr. Russell, if you could respond to Councillor Beale.
Oh, it's actually more, after I did ask some questions of planning and learn some things about the relative size. I don't know if that's appropriate to share here. There is information in the staff report. What isn't there is a comparison with other grocery facilities that we have in the community. So that was what I was particularly interested in. So because, you know, on paper, we go from 600, the proposal, the request is for 600 square meters or 6,500 square feet approximately to go to 1,700 square meters. And I wasn't sure just what does that look like? What would that feel like? And so that is a little bit less than the size of the Choices grocery store. So then I was also curious for the proposing enlargement, sorry. But I was curious, what I didn't have was what is the size that would be currently allowed? And that would actually be more than the size of Eat Fresh at present. And I think that any of us who I have shopped at all the grocery stores in town for different products. And certainly those of us who are familiar with Eat Fresh can see that it is a full grocery store. It is not going to have perhaps like a full pharmacy that you might see in Save On or QF or elsewhere, but it's certainly a full grocery store. It's more than a local convenience store. It can provide produce and dairy and everything that you get there. So quite frankly, I don't see the need for a larger store in this area to fit in with the tourist designation, tourist commercial. There are things I like about this, but I'm also wondering, and this would go to staff, there are actually 2 requests in this if we move ahead with first reading. And I'm wondering, is that absolutely necessary that both of those elements go together, or was there consideration to split that up? Because one has to do with the density applying to the property as a whole, and the other has to do with allowing a larger grocery store there.
Mr. Russell, if you could.
If I may, through to Councillor Beal, they don't have to go together. The way the bylaw is currently written has those 2 elements together. So if council wanted to go ahead, split it into 2 bylaws, it certainly could, but we'd then be sort of dovetailing 2 processes.
Go ahead, Councillor Beal.
I appreciate that information. I don't want to add extra wait, I'm just concerned that if one aspect of it is not approved, then it goes to everything. And certainly at this point in time, I'm totally in favor of the density being applied to the full property, but I do have some real reservations about allowing the increase of commercial, especially considering there'll be other commercial on the property, Heritage Plaza, there's opportunities for complementary commercial businesses in the area that would be, in my mind, more in keeping with a tourist commercial zone.
Go ahead, Mr. Russell.
If I may add something, so through the zoning bylaw process, council can make amendments to the bylaw at a later stage, provided it's not related to use or density. So the size, the grocery store area provision isn't a density parameter. It's more of like a siting parameter, kind of similar to setbacks or building size. So that you could see the process through. And if, like the bylaw at this stage doesn't need to be changed. And if council at a certain stage has a different perspective on it, then that part could be adjusted theoretically without taking away the proposed density shift to facilitate the subdivision.
Go ahead, Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my understanding then is that these proponents absolutely need to have this move forward in order for even that density part of the bylaw to be approved. Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay, good question. Go ahead. Councillor Martin.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
There's so many-
speaking to the resolution on the floor.
This is about the size of the buildings?
Well, actually, we're speaking to just receive the report.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions about receiving the report? Do you have a question, Councillor Gaur?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Russell, I have a question for you. In your report, it mentions that there will be an opportunity for a public hearing if one to be held. Is that correct?
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Gaur, that's correct. This zoning amendment is not predominantly facilitating a residential use. That decision was already made when the original CD zone was prepared. This is essentially a minor tweak to facilitate subdivision, which isn't expressly residential in of itself.
Yep. So there will be a public hearing opportunity.
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Gaur, council has the ability to have a public hearing. In this scenario, council also has the ability to waive the public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Grant, go ahead.
I may, thank you. Just to clarify then, currently the report is proposing an open house, but not necessarily a public hearing, right?
If I may, through to Councillor Grant, sorry if you could repeat the question.
The report is recommending an open house be held, but not a public hearing.
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Grant, that's because at this stage we would not be setting the public hearing date. In this particular case, as noted elsewhere in the report, but not in the recommendations, there will be a public hearing opportunity in the case of this application.
Okay, thank you.
All questions regarding the report? Satisfied? Thank you. I'm going to right now. Yes, yeah, I thought you had another question. You can if you want. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Council, could I move or second for the recommendation that council, in accordance with the bylaw section of the council agenda, introduce the proposed zoning and development amendment bylaw 2025, number 000.155 for consideration of first reading. A mover by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we've already heard a couple of comments on this. I certainly look forward to public engagement on it. As Councillor Beal mentioned, the existing size of kind of the larger commercial space is larger than, say, Naked Naturals or eFresh as it is, which certainly alleviates kind of grabbing quite a few groceries before coming across the Orange Bridge, which is certainly something to consider. But I also don't want it to cannibalize kind of our other grocery retailers that are already established here in Parksville. And so I think that's something that council should consider moving forward. But I look forward to the public engagement process. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Grant, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to council. On that vein, I'm a bit on two minds on this as well, because I wonder how much of the traffic over the Orange Bridge would also be from people living in Area E in Nanoose Bay area. Like, I imagine a number of folks are coming through from there, and they would be less likely maybe to go over the Orange Bridge if there was something on this side of that bridge. That area is actually one of the fastest growing areas in the regional district. So I think a lot of people don't necessarily think, when we've heard a lot of engagement about Parksville's traffic to downtown over the Orange Bridge, but there's a lot of traffic that's outside of the boundary of Parksville that would also be going over there. That said, if I were to come up with my ideal vision for this particular location, it wouldn't be a large grocery store. It would be more of something maybe more like Coombs, or, as I mentioned, Uptown in Victoria, where rather than having one large retailer where you do all your shopping, maybe it's a little bit more tourist friendly, that it would be a number of smaller retailers, that maybe there's a bakery, maybe there's a produce place. Maybe it's more like a European style thing that tourists would much prefer. And if you could walk over from any number of the resorts, they're just around the corner from this proposal. I think they'd much rather go to something like that than some sort of another of our friend Bob Loblaw to shop there. So, with all respect to the Weston family, I think it'd be great to have something a little bit more touristy and local in this particular tourist area.
And thanks, Councillor Grant. I entirely get what you're saying. It would be more of a, I don't want to say designer boutique style grocery store, but I won't say the name WHOLE Foods style, which would be, like more of a different format for a grocery shopping type of thing, maybe a different scale. But I will also comment that we'll have lots of time to decide that, when we get to that phase, to maybe influence the developer into, this is what we'd like to see. Can you consider the following? And I think that's very valid questions. I also point out the fact that I feel that it's also going to be beneficial for the fact that we have got recent approval that the entire Resort Drive is short-term rentals. Short-term rentals, as you know, are people that are living in suites that have cooking facilities they are getting groceries, and they are getting lots of groceries because, you know, they're booked in for a summer, a couple of days. We understand that some could be for a week or two anyways, which is great. But at the same time, they can get their groceries right on Resort Drive. You know, they could walk to get their groceries, which is great. So I appreciate that opportunity because, as we know, there's a fair number of short-term rentals with the recently completed Sunrise Ridge resort development. So I'm looking forward to that. But I agree, we will definitely have some very vigorous conversations regarding what that commercial node looks like. And I love your idea right away about the European concept. I see that as being, this could be that place, right? Yeah, and I think it's a good suggestion, and I'm hoping that Ms. Rand is listening. So I know we're a long ways away from that, but I like that concept. Thanks for introducing it. Councillor Gaur.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think I want to start with thanking Councillor Beal for doing all the work for me. I think she presented a lot of great background and all the information got from the staff. And again, Councillor Grenz, I think, mentions a really good point. My concern in the beginning to the presenter was also kind of fitting into the resort and the tourist neighborhood thing. So a large grocery store, I agree with council, is, in my opinion, not an ideal spot for this. Again, respecting the tourist and the resort designation for the lands. I do like the part that there will be opportunity for public engagement. However, I do feel strongly that moving this forward, I don't really want to waste anybody's time to put it but this way. I would not support the first reading of this because I really do think it will negatively impact our businesses downtown. And just the location of the size of the grocery store is not appropriate at this time. So for that reason, I will be voting against the first reading. Thank you.
Councillor Beal, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting this motion. I will say primarily because of the need for this to move along to address the density requests. I appreciate what our staff has indicated and that there could be an amendment regarding the increased size for the commercial area meant to be a grocery store. I'd also like to mention that in the current zoning, there is a grocery store allowed for. It's just a smaller version. So I think that, you know, it's not the question of having something or not having it at all, but it is about that increased size. So I will be supporting this so that it can move forward regarding density, and I look forward to having public input. Thank you.
Councillor Grenz, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just going to also say I will be supporting it because I see this as our opportunity to have more of a say in what the future of this will look like. If we turn it down and have no public engagement and none of that, then it will be up to the developer to do whatever they can do within the current zoning. This way we can actually have that conversation.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Gone around the circle here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's what I do.
I support it too. I appreciate the fact that we can look at options to do with the commercial part later. And
Right.
It's wonderful. It's going to be really good cleaning the place up. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? All those in favor? Okay, that carries unanimous. Thank you. Council, point 3, that the owners of 1180 Resort Drive or their agents are to provide an opportunity for public engagement, such as hosting of a public open house, and provide comments received to the Community Planning and Building Department for subsequent introduction to council prior to second reading of the Zoning and Development Amendment Bylaw. A mover and seconder for that, please. Moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Grenz. Discussion. Anyone have any questions to point 3 or discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Gaur.
Yes, thank you. So maybe in this, we can add that there will be opportunity for public to send that communications directly to council as well at this time.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
that rather than just the open house, that public will have the opportunity to send their comments directly to council as well. Does it need to be specified or?
Is that not normal process? CAO Kaler?
Well, any person always has that opportunity to forward comments directly to council. The council email is right on our website. If anyone doesn't know, it's council@parksville.ca. But this is specifically for the owner to provide all of the comments they receive at their public open house to us. And that comes back to council with a formal report.
Yes. Good. Any further discussion? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Grants. You're okay. Oh, you're voting already. Okay. That's a relief. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. Point 4, that the owners of the 1180 Resort Drive or their agent are to install notice signs on the subject property at their expense a minimum of 10 days prior to their public engagement undertaking or prior to the public hearing date for the zoning and development amendment bylaw. I'm moving a second for that. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Wood. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimous. Thank you, Council. Under reports, we have the next report on the agenda is from the Director of Community Planning and Building for license of an occupation agreement with 1083161 BC Limited, also known as Extreme Eatery, for a street patio to consider a license of occupation agreement for a street patio. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendation as noted? Councillor Beal moves and seconded by Councillor Grens. Is there any discussion or questions at this time? You have a question, Councillor Gore?
Yes, I do, Mayor. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Gore.
Thank you. I have a question for staff. So this street patio has been in use since 2021, 2022, and are they under TUP or what are they using?
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Gore, I believe it was a provision during the pandemic and it's just a holdover from that.
Okay, just a follow-up through you, Mayor. So was there any fee or anything that they've been paying for using that space for the last few years?
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Gore, I'm not aware of any fee being paid.
Thank you. And any further comments? I will comments. We have received some correspondence, of course, from numerous participants in the downtown core, mostly as advising that they are very much in favor of this bylaw, and so or this license of occupation agreement, and they're very supportive of the fact that we are pursuing this action to increase vitality in the downtown core. And I'm looking forward to this, and thank you for the applicant for being the first applicant to do this, and it's a bit of a arduous process, and thank you for your patience. And I will now ask the question. All those in favor? Councillor Gaur.
Yes, thank you to our Director of Planning, and this is perhaps getting into the nitty and gritty, and I apologize. This one is some clarification, Mr. Russell. So when you calculated how much are they going to be paying by the square footage, I see that the calculation was based on the canopy that's covering the parking stalls, but not based on the two parking stalls themselves, correct? Because what I see is currently two parking stalls are being used as this street patio. Only a little portion of those are that's not being covered, but we are only charging for the canopy that's the size of the canopy, meaning the rest of the stalls are not usable for us and they're not paying for that, correct?
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Gore, that is correct. Part of that is the fact that most of our parking spaces in the downtown with the exception of parallel parking spaces, aren't marked. And so in anticipating an agreement that would be applicable to everyone on an equitable basis, not every store has the same kind of parking space in front of it, and most have parallel spaces. And so as those aren't defined with paint markings on the ground, there's going to be a change, a variableness in the area that those are going to occupy. And so that's why it was prepared that way. It's not the only way it could be prepared, but in presenting, this initial one, that's how it was calculated.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you. No, I appreciate that, just to make it fair and equitable for everyone. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, definitely support it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since we're on the topic, I just want to emphasize again what I made previous comment, that I do hope that as staff looks to come up with a framework for this, that not just the value of the parking spot is taken into consideration, but also the value of kind of retail space relative to other retailers in the area that may be paying sort of full price for their patio areas. And that should, from an equitable perspective, I think at least be taken into account.
Right. Any other questions? I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. The next report on the agenda is from the Director of Operations regarding the fleet pickup trucks purchase and retention to request a variance from Equipment Replacement Reserve 2025 financial plan. Do I have a mover or second for the recommendation? Sorry. Do you want to split it? Do you want to split it or no? Can we take it all on? Please vocalize what you would like to do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I was saying there are 3 options already in the report. So I think we can just choose one of those 3 options rather than voting separately on the recommendations. Correct, staff? On page 54 of the report.
Okay, I will read them out. Do I need a mover or seconder? Oh, I see. Do I move a seconder for the 3rd recommendation? Right. So you're asking. So clarification, CAO Kaler, I can see where there's some, yeah, okay, go ahead.
So I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to address your question correctly, but through the mayor, staff are recommending what is on page 53. So that is what staff's recommending. If council does not want to follow what staff's recommending, then they have an opportunity to provide a different motion.
So we can take it all at once then. Yeah. Okay. For the more extensive report on page 53. Okay, good. So I would like a mover or seconder for this first. Moved by Councillor Wood, second by Councillor Beale. Now, any discussion about the report and so forth? This is where to make sure you understand the reasoning for this and so forth. Are you clear on this? If you're unclear, then now's the time to ask a question on what it's about. You have a question or you're clear? Councillor Beale, go ahead. You're on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the report from staff. It was very helpful, very informative. I can appreciate that increasing the number of trucks will be of some real benefit for staff that are presently jockeying and sharing and so on and so forth. I wonder if you could answer the question about what kind of benefit will the public see with the increase of the number of trucks? I don't know if, for instance, if parks would be using some of this truck, would that allow people to get to 2 different parks sort of at the same time? Right now, I will relate a little story that there were more than 25 cars parked outside Springwood in the area wanting to get into that park the other day, waiting for somebody to open the gate. So I just can't help but wonder, does that free up some people to get to different places a little more efficiently or a little earlier?
CAO Kaler,
Thank
hand-
you.
hand
Yeah,
that to you.
I'll start, and Keith and Jetta are both available if I missed anything, but exactly through you, Mr. Mayor, exactly as Councillor Beal has mentioned, one of the vehicles will be kind of a floating or a fleet vehicle, so that if something unforeseen comes up, someone would have access to a vehicle, as most of our operations vehicles are out on the road from early in the morning until later in the day. So if somebody needed to go, the mechanic or a staff member needed to go attend to something, and they don't have a assigned vehicle, they currently don't really have one that they can access. And so that would be a benefit. But exactly what you're mentioning, we have some new staff that have been approved in the last few years from council in the facilities department and in the parks department and special events department, and they don't have assigned vehicles. And so it's significantly better value to retain the vehicles that in the city of Parksville don't tend to get a lot of mileage. So we kind of automatically traded them in at a certain time, but we're reassessing the benefit of that given the tariffs and some trade challenges. And since COVID, we've had a real struggle actually getting vehicles. We've had to wait multiple years sometimes for basic trucks. So we'd be able to redeploy these vehicles for all kinds of service levels. So it should result in greater efficiency and better service. If somebody calls and there's a truck available, someone will get there quicker than having to wait. And it also just allows our two facility staff to be at two different locations with their tools and equipment and things of that nature. So it's much more efficient than one of them dropping them off and then the tools aren't available and then they have to go back. And so we're definitely seeing inefficiencies in that particular section.
Go ahead, Councillor Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Kiva, for that information, because I would want to support this, but particularly with the understanding that the public would see some benefit to this. Like you say, if people have to be dropped off and gone and pick up, then, we can't open everything at the same time. That's just one example, but I think that our parks and public spaces are areas that the public is very particularly keenly aware of. And, when there's a delay, it has a real impact on the quality of people's lives and their wellness and their activities. So I appreciate that and I will support this.
Councillor Gaur.
Thank you. To our CAO, is there a reason why this cannot be deferred until the next budget deliberations in the fall?
If I may, well, yes, because we have to trade them in now otherwise. So we don't want to trade them in. We want to retain them rather than getting a fairly low value for trading them in, and then replacing those vehicles ultimately would cost significantly more in the future than keeping the three that we currently have. Or sorry, was it three? I think it was three. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to maybe clear up. So this is actually has the effect of saving our taxpayers a lot of money for possibly in the very near future, having the requisition go through for 3 additional brand new trucks. So this way, we're using the 3 trucks that we have instead of trading them in and getting a ridiculously low trade-in value. We're obtaining 3 trucks that probably would have been requisitioned anyways to increase the efficiency of our staff, because as we know, the workload has increased immensely from what it was in the past. And so we want to make sure that our crew can get there efficiently and get all the work done that we've laid out for them, because the work plan and is very, very aggressive. So in this particular case, I think it's a good strategic move, and I thank staff for thinking of it, because when I think of what we're getting for these trade-in trucks and what we're actually having to pay for a brand new truck, and it's only going to get worse with the tariffs going on and so forth. So this is getting 3, and we know these trucks, we've maintained them, so we know they're good vehicles, and so we're going to get them for basically the cost of what the trade-in value was, which was in the report, which was marginal or mediocre to say the least. So I'm very thankful for the staff to come up with this suggestion, because in the long run, strategically in a 5-year plan, it's saving us a great deal of money. So that's why I'm fully supporting of this. Anyways, so any further questions? All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. The next report on the agenda is from our CAO regarding the UBCM resolutions and meetings with provincial ministers to seek council direction on request to meet with provincial ministers and the submission of resolutions for consideration at the 2025 UBCM convention. Do I remove or second for the recommendation for the report from the CAO dated May 1, 2025, entitled UBCM resolutions and meetings with provincial ministers be received? Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Martin. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. That carries. We have the first reading for the Zoning and Development Amendment Bylaw 2025, number 2000.155, text amendment to CD 291180 Resort Drive. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. That carries, unanimous. Third reading and final adoption for Zoning and Development Amendment Bylaw 2025, number 2000.154 for the text amendment street patios. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Gaur. Any discussion? Councillor Gaur.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, through you to council. I just want to extend my thanks to staff for putting this together on a very short notice. Thank you for Extreme Eatery for starting this process, and I think it's very exciting. I've spoken to a lot of folks in the community, business owners, residents, and everybody's really looking forward to that. Perhaps this could be part of my liaison reports, but even AOA folks are quite happy to see this come up. The Access Oceanside folks, they're looking forward to this. It's a great opportunity for us as a seaside, beachside community, and I'm really looking forward to the Craig Street Market and how this blends in with the whole vibrancy downtown. I do have a question for staff that the monies that we'll be collecting through the fee, would those be going into the off-street parking fund, or would that be going back into the general revenue for this?
Go ahead, CAO Kaler, please.
If I may, oops, can you hear me? Sorry. We actually just discussed this today. There's a number of different opportunities, but it will initially be quite a small amount. It's only $150. So most likely it'll just go back into general reserve right now. But we were talking about, we've got a number of pilots in the downtown area, including the food truck rental. So we'll probably, once there's enough funds to make it worth it, we would probably suggest reinvesting it in the downtown in some manner.
Thank you. Follow up.
Yes, thank you. I think this is also an opportunity for our staff to perhaps work with the PDBA in coming up with a parking plan. Now that we have a new parking lot that we've approved, I don't know if it will be operational this summer, but something to look forward to. I'm expecting a lot of, I'm hoping to see a lot of uptake of this from the catering and the restaurant businesses. But it will be good to have a parking plan in place as this gets busier downtown. So perhaps we can alleviate those problems before they arrive.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, CAO Kaler.
So that would not be a staff initiative without council direction, but one of the items that we will be bringing to council in the near future is the master transportation plan, which the draft has some recommendations for future studies and working together. And we also anticipate having some committees of the whole with some of the results of the master transportation plan and hopefully the PDBA's project right now that they're working on, which I think council is aware of, so that we would get direction from council in the summer. And then that would be good timing for that to be implemented through budget discussions in the fall.
Yes, thank you. And I too would just like to suggest that my appreciation for the comments and the advocacy by Extreme Eatery, which is the guinea pig of this project. And we put it together when we saw the opportunity of actually legitimizing these street patios and the value of it all. And Extreme Eatery was very helpful with very many meetings with staff and ourselves anyways to suggest what that could look like, how it could be. And there's no sense putting a program together that's nobody going to buy into, because that's a lot of wasted time for staff and so forth. They were very helpful anyway, saying that this is a reasonable attempt to start the street patio trend or I hope to be in our downtown core, which goes right into the PDBA vibrancy and suggested rehabilitation and improvement for the downtown area. And I'm looking forward to being part of it, but also for the fact that there was a lot of back and forth that went back with our staff to get it open as soon as possible, because guess what? We're coming up to street patio season, and the sooner we can get it up, the sooner the proprietors and others in our city can take advantage of this. So my personal thanks to like taking everything else off their desk. Planning department made this happen so that it happened in a timely manner. So my specific thanks to our planning department for allowing this to come this fast, because this was a quick turnaround, folks. And it's much appreciated. Everybody got on board. So thank you, council, for your comments and so forth in support of this. I think it's going to be good for our city. So go ahead, Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe our CAO has already alluded to this, but I just have a question about timelines now. So assuming this is, if this is passed, when it passes, you know, how soon can this take effect? And the second part of that is if an establishment wishes to serve any alcoholic beverages in these spots, I presume that it doesn't automatically extend to these areas and they need to make some sort of an application. Anyway, if you could just clarify a bit of that, and does the city play a role in terms of supporting an application? Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah, okay.
Through the, do you want to start? Okay, Blaine wants to add.
Yeah, Mr. Russell, if you would, sir.
If I may, Mayor, I don't know if I necessarily want to answer, but so the process would really be just the license of occupation process. So anyone else looking to do a street patio, they would put a submission into the planning department. We would review it, talk to engineering, et cetera. And then you'd be getting a report to council with a license of occupation attached. And you'd be making a decision at that meeting whether or not to issue the license of occupation. So timeline wise, I would anticipate probably 4 to 6 weeks for an individual application to come before you.
See, okay.
If I may, I think if I can just add, Blaine's talking about future applications from different people. I believe Councillor Beal might be talking about this particular application. And so this comes into effect as soon as the resolution is passed. So council, maybe to touch on some of the items council mentioned earlier, any future applicants will have their own license of occupation issued by council, and that will give council the opportunity to set a rate that's different than what we recommend, to have other terms that you want to add. And then the applicants will have to get their own liquor license. So there are processes in place for that. But for today's application for this particular applicant, they are good to go as soon as you, assuming you pass the resolution, as soon as this meeting is over, basically, or well, even before the meeting's over, as long as their resolution is passed.
Councillor Beal, follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for that. So I was actually curious about both parts of those questions, as in the applicant who is here, but also for future applications. I also recall when this was first brought forward that it was anticipated that, and I forget exactly what needs to be in place, that at some point in time, it would not necessarily have to come to council, but that staff that could make that decision. And so what needs to happen in the interim so that we can get to the point that staff can do that? And I imagine it would actually save a little bit of staff time as well, or it wouldn't, because they have to do a report that comes to us as it is right now.
So if I may, I can't see Blaine behind me, but if he's waving, you can let him talk.
If
Mr.
I,
Russell, go ahead, sir.
if I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Beal, it would involve a fairly significant bylaw preparation. So you'd be looking at about a 14 to 15 page bylaw because it ends up having to establish the technical parameters very specifically. And it's really based on those technical parameters where the yay or nay from staff are gonna come from. So I don't think based on some of council's other priorities, I just don't see that happening within the next year or two work program, maybe possibly longer. So that's part of the reason why we've taken the approach we've taken or recommended the approach that's we're pursuing at this point. But as well, there's also an opportunity to kind of, it's kind of like building a car without ever seeing one. And so, as these applications evolve and we get different proposals, we're going to have a better sense of what works in Parksville. That one was great. This one, not so much. And so when you formalize that into a technical parameter, we're going to have some experience on the ground of what that means, and we can detail it with more detail and precision.
Oh, now you all want to talk. Go ahead, CEO Kaler.
Thank you. Just want to add in that we have a 3-year term on this particular program. And that was to allow council to monitor it for 3 years and also going into the next term of council so that council has an opportunity to see what's working, and then it becomes more operational. And so that gives staff time to create the terms and conditions under which staff would issue an approval. And we have that input over a couple of years from 2 different councils on what they would like to see at the community level. So it kind of creates a couple of test cases so that we know what to adjust over the next few years.
Okay, which is the exact definition of a pilot program. I'm going to go to Councillor Martin first, then I'll come back to Councillor Pink, but just give Councillor Martin a chance here.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor. As you know, I've been supportive of this program, but I really appreciate the staff taking the time to walk before we run on this because it is new to Parksville and it's going to be really great. We do it right. So that's why I'm appreciative of the staff and what you've done, Mr. Russell and team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Beal, follow up. Go ahead.
Quelle surprise, eh? I just have a couple of quick questions, I think. So with this going forward, will the applicants need to reapply on a yearly basis? Or will this be good for the 3 years? I see the 3-finger salute. Thank you very much. That answered my question.
3-finger salute is always better than the alternate. Right. So that's great. Is there any further questions? All those in favor? It passes unanimous. Get out of here. Get it open. You're ready to go. Thank you. Yeah, no applause. This isn't a public hearing. Come on. Applause is sometimes needed. Thank you. We have 2 notices of motion coming forth. We have the first motion. Okay, I see a highlighted part here. Slight amendment to this motion by removing C. Is this the revised edition that was handed out here? Okay, so we have 2 notices of motion, and these are notices of motion for UBCM resolutions, folks. The first one is from Councillor Gaur, submission of resolution to UBCM establishing local watershed boards in British Columbia. And Councillor Gaur, I'd like you to read out your notice of motion, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just for council's information that the motion on the agenda has been amended and you have the revised copy with you. And the reason for the revision is to match the UBCM guidelines to remove the extra whereases that were present in my original motion. And before I begin, I do want to thank our staff for preparing this, helping me, and also the background. Amazing work. Thank you. Also want to recognize the staff at the BC Water Legacy and the Cowichan Watershed Board who I met at AVICC, and they encouraged me to bring this forward. I'll start with reading my resolution and look for a seconder to provide some background later on. Whereas BC communities are facing increasing water insecurity due to multi-year droughts, floods, wildfires, and rising water demand for housing, agriculture, and economic development. And whereas BC lacks a provincial framework for local watershed boards, despite successful models in other provinces and in BC, like the Cowichan Watershed Board, to coordinate watershed planning, drought response, flood mitigation, drinking water protection, and long-term watershed security. Therefore, be it resolved that UBCM call on the province of British Columbia to establish a system of local watershed boards across the province, co-developed with First Nations and local governments to improve watershed governance, increase community resilience, and ensure sustainable, equitable water management for current and future generations. If somebody can second, I will provide the background.
I'll second that for debate. Yes,
Yes,
go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And this background is actually on the other side of your, the handout.
Everybody have this handout. The background is on the back.
Yeah, so
Go ahead, Councillor Gaur.
just to kind of give a little bit of gist that, as we know that we are seeing changing climates, we see a lot of droughts, and our watersheds are under a lot of stress, and that's not a surprise to us in Oceanside. So I'll just read this. Although the province's plan identifies regional technical drought and working groups, which coordinate and collaborate on drought response actions with technical staff at the regional or watershed level, which may include technical experts from First Nations, provincial, local, and federal governments, this structure does not allow sufficient input and influence from local governments who are responsible for providing the boots on the ground response to water scarcity. So I think there's a lot to learn from the Cowichan Watershed Board security. The biggest thing is the collaboration that they've come up with, the local First Nations, and having the water stewardship. So we do have some plans in place, as Councillor was mentioning to me before the start of the meeting. There is like the drinking water and watershed protection program, but there is no real governance structure that kind of deals with the watershed, and there is no policy making abilities of those groups. So that's why having a watershed board is an important step that needs to happen in BC. And honestly, such boards are already in existence in Alberta, Ontario, and Manitoba. So something like that would be ideal for us. Coming into Oceanside specifically, I think in our region, we are fortunate to have two First Nations and a wealth of knowledge in our community members, a lot of professionals, a lot of retired professionals with a lot of time and expertise in the field that I think would be a really good fit for something like this if there was to happen. So I'm looking for council's support on this, and hopefully we'll get a response from the province how we can move forward on this. Thanks.
I just have a question. What this water board looks like, Councillor Gaur, like who is it made of? Like I'm trying to think of this. Like, how is this going to benefit the city of Parksville? Like specifically the city of Parksville. I understand you're asking for a response for all of British Columbia, which is rather large. But anyway, so that's interesting. But how is this going to help the city of Parksville?
So just kind of reading at what the Cowichan Valley, the Cowichan Watershed Board has been able to do, they have been advocating for the local area. So this is what we can do. Like we have the Englishman and the French Creek watersheds. So perhaps in the future we could have an amalgamated watershed board that can provide the advocacy for us. They set targets. They help in, like I said, advising the senior and the local government, including the First Nations. So working with them, how we can have like sustainable water flow in the rivers, how we can sustainably use water for development. I think the reason it was spent BC wide is to make it palatable for the UBCM membership. But my response was to have oceanside watershed boards, but this was a recommendation from the staff that I was working with at the Water Legacy Foundation. So I think it will build on having a watershed board will actually build on the information that's already is provided with the RDN, work with, like I said, with the First Nations. Like there's no real engagement at this time with First Nations, and advocacy is the big part to have that, in my opinion.
This has a few alarming aspects to me as well. You're suggesting that a water board then would actually be controlling or actually providing advice on to our own city of Parksville water department, water operations and so forth. That there is going to be one more level of bureaucracy that our people, we have provisional operational agreements and so forth on the Arrowsmith Dam already in place with the province, and we have different water license and regulations that are already in place. And I'm very reluctant to let another board get in between us supplying our water of which we already have licenses for to take. Have some other board getting in there and suggesting that maybe we should be using this much water or not using this much water. We already have water conservation plans in place, which we have developed in coordination with the RDN, which we are now currently following and so forth, and quite successfully. We've met our provisional operational requirements already from the Arrowsmith Dam, in fact, even better than what was historically traditional on the Englishman River and so forth. And so we have this in place. And so I am really reluctant to let any other organization to get in between our supply of potable water to the people of City of Parksville. So I'm definitely not in favor of this at all. And so for the City of Parksville, and that's who we're representing right here today, City of Parksville. We're not representing the other areas. You say Oceanside. This is not Oceanside. You're a council member of City of Parksville. So for it to be endorsed by City of Parksville, I cannot suggest any reason to support this, because it's going to put in our place in jeopardy our own management of our own water system. And so I'm just not pleased with this at all. I would not support this in any way. Thank you. Go ahead. Any other questions or comments at this time? Go ahead, Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Chair. And, building off of your comments, and maybe it helps Councillor Gaur as well. How does this help the City of Parksville, or what gaps might it help the City of Parksville close that aren't kind of being closed right now, besides First Nations involvement in how we currently handle things? Thanks.
Yes, thank you. So like this is what I think is with the changing climate and the water scarcity that we face, having a board like this has successfully seen results in Cowichan. I don't think it impeded the work of the city itself or the First Nations or the regional districts. So just reading off, and again, this is new information for me, and I'm trying to learn as I present to you folks, that what this board does in Cowichan is it is working with the Cowichan tribes, it is working with the regional district, the province, and the federal government. It is providing a space for people to come together. When you talk about the water for Parksville, we actually don't own the water. You know that. The province owns the water.
We have the license.
So having all these organizations at the table, I think it leads to a better management. It also leads to better policy work together. So we can have our discussions at the same. And honestly, we've seen not enough effort being made to engage with the First Nations. So this does help to bring them at the table to have a say in the Englishman River and the watershed. And going back, I think this is not to add bureaucracy, but it's more like information sharing and how we can improve our best practices. We know how broken with the RDN the whole system is. We are all aware of that. And we talked about the drinking water watershed protection program, but what was the last time we heard anything from the RDN come and talk to us about it, how we can do things better? This board, if it were to be established, which I don't know like how it will look what it will look like in the future, but there's something for us to learn how Cowichan is doing. I don't have the ins and outs of how it works, how it doesn't work, but it's definitely worth a model to look at. It has been successful. It's something we can follow and learn. I'm always open to new learning and doing things differently. And I think this is an opportunity for us to do the same.
I have to ask, did you run this by staff with our operations department to see if this would, did you run this by staff to see if this would be impactful at all on our water program? As on your instruction? You mentioned the Water Stewardship Association or whatever advise you on this, and so the Water Stewardship or water. You said it's something about the Water Stewardship Group that helped you with this, or Water Legacy. So that's who helped you formulate this idea. Is that? Yeah. Well, anyways.
If I may, through the mayor, just to provide.
Yeah, CEO Killer, just like from a operations point of view, the impact that this could possibly have on our operations.
I actually can't comment on that because I don't really understand exactly the whole framework here. But what I did just want to clarify is staff assist with writing motions for council. And so we, I believe one of our staff and admin helped put this together, but we don't vet the merits of the proposal. So we don't have, we're kind of a neutral script writer behind the scenes. So I can't really offer any other comments on the actual proposal itself, just that we helped write it. Well, not we, I didn't personally, but one of our very talented staff wrote the background based on guidance from the councillor. And we do that for all councillors at different times. We just assist in the format of the motion, but not the content.
Right. And thank you. So I couldn't support anything like this without this being vetted by our operations. That you're actually stepping into our operations department and all the licenses and all the technical by introducing another board in between that. Without having the staff input as to what this, like, I just know because I'm on the ERWS and EWS boards as well. And so I recognize the whole water concept, but at the same time, this is alarming to me, just as, let's say, a layman. I would definitely want this to be vetted through our staff to see possible ramifications of this before I'd even consider it. So go ahead, Councillor Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've talked about water lots before with the Englishman. I'm just wondering, would it be helpful to get more information for the research to be done by Councillor Gaur, if he's really wanting to do this, on what is going on in Couch and how the structure works, how that all works. I wonder if that would be worth, not our staff, but because Councillor Gaur has already talked to Cowichan, and so maybe they could get more details to understand the mechanics of this. That's all.
But
yeah.
Recognize every region will be separate. It will be different. What their source of water supply is. I don't know whether the Cowichan district has drilled wells as well as river flow. I don't know that. I know what our system is, and that's all that I can speak to. But at the same time, is I would need definitely staff input as to what this would be. And first it would be, and I recognize that the Cowichan model is also, a lot of it is to do with the flood mitigation that they have. I know because I have friends down there. I get it. I know the mayor and I recognize what they have to do. And so it's a totally different system. This is like putting in one watershed board, like for every region type of thing, is just introducing another level of bureaucracy that further hampers the efforts of our people to deliver sufficient water of good quality to our residents. And I don't think that they need any more impediments to let them do their job. I can't say what does this water board look like, what are their terms of reference. I would have to know all of that and then take that, send it to our staff if you want, and then come back with a staff report as what this would be. I'm sorry, you're not capable, nor am I, to establish a brand new watershed board based on this without having staff input as to what this would be. I'm just saying the obvious. Go ahead, Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too do have a number of questions regarding this. On the surface, I think it looks fine in the sense that perhaps I would imagine it's around the health of the overall watershed, which is certainly beyond, in our area, goes beyond the city of Parksville into other areas that are upstream. But I do also have a number of questions. I would love to get more information, both from perhaps Cowichan. Yes, they have issues with flooding, but they also have kind of a similar river, et cetera. I know that Nanaimo has fairly recently done a review of their watershed area. I'm curious to know if there are other places in the province that also have something that looks at the overall watershed. I would like to know if working towards something like this, is there some benefit, getting some benefit of expertise from the provincial level in terms of provincial government in terms of sharing information, et cetera? Maybe we already get that. I'm not sure. So I would actually like to defer this. It seems to me that there's time before it would have to be absolutely, there's no time?
This is introducing a total study by our department.
Oh, that wasn't what I was suggesting. I was suggesting that I would have an opportunity to look into this and learn a little bit more about what's going on around the province. I wasn't suggesting that staff look into this, but that for those of us around the table, I really haven't had an opportunity to delve into this with any sort of depth. But is there not still an opportunity? We have 2 meetings in June, or just the next meeting?
If I may, through the mayor. So the deadline for submissions gives us 1 meeting. So we have to submit our requests for resolutions and meeting requests by, I think it was the middle of June. It was in the report, forget what the actual date was, but we have 1 more meeting to confirm what council is wanting to put forward. And being mindful of that they are requests, they're not guaranteed, but council would be making recommendations on resolutions for inclusion at UBCM and for council meetings at UBCM with various ministers, if that's what council wishes.
Councillor Wood, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. It might help Councillor Gaur as a thought, since we do have 1 meeting. If he brought it back, we've been voted to represent the corporation, the incorporated city of Parksville, and this, changes the role that operations have.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's in our best interest before we support what might be, worthwhile supporting for the entire province, but we need to know what the impact is on the city of Parksville, which we've been elected to represent. And I think it might change drastically, to your point, Mayor, how our operations operate. And so I'd like to know the gaps that it tries to close and how it impacts our operations before I could support it. I'm not saying I wouldn't support it at that time, but I think it would be extra information for us to have moving forward. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Grenz, first time speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through to council, first off to Councillor Gaur, thank you very much for bringing this forward. I very much agree with the premise around what we're seeing across the province with snowpacks. It's a bit concerning. That said, I have concerns about the solution presented here, as particularly for us in Parksville. We're in the middle of our big water study, and maybe the water study would recommend setting up such a board, but we wouldn't necessarily need the province to do that. In the case of Cowichan, I'm pretty sure that board was established by the regional district in that area, not by the provincial government. And so if our regional district wanted to do that, we definitely could, I assume. If we look at other provinces, they don't have regional districts. So maybe that's why they have something like this. I don't know. But what we do have in the province is we have Fraser Basin Council, which has a number of watershed groups as well that work with that. That's not really on the island, but it is elsewhere in the province. So I imagine they're doing similar work to what would be proposed here. But the final thing is in my 2-ish years of being at this table, I have seen what feels to me like too many times where the province has imposed requirements upon our municipality, and we don't really have the capacity to do a bunch of the things that they're asking us to do. And I'd hate to go and recommend that they impose another thing on us until we know for sure that it's something that we here actually can't do without that being imposed by the province. So other communities, maybe they really would benefit from this. I don't know if ours would. So that's why at this point I wouldn't really support it. Probably wouldn't even next meeting, to be honest, based on the things I mentioned around our current situation.
Thank you. And Councillor Beale, you had a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the comments from other councillors, but I still think there's some merit in, I would like to learn more about this. So I would like to request deferring this to the next meeting. Refer it, isn't that a deeper?
Yep.
Was that a?
So non-debate.
Sorry. Just a clarification, if there's a move to defer to the next meeting and it's been seconded, there's no debate, you just have to vote.
That's why I didn't want to say that before Councillor Grens and Councillor Wood got to put their 2 cents out there, and Councillor Martin, thank you. But yes, I would like to defer this to the next council meeting.
Yeah, Councillor Wood has seconded already. Yes. Okay, no further discussion. Good, thank you. Sorry.
Just have to vote on the deferral, and if it passes, then no more debate.
Okay, so if it passes, there's no more debate. So on vote of the deferral, all those in favor? Those opposed? All those in favor, again, if you could, put your hands up high. Yeah, okay. And those opposed? That carries. No further debate. Thank you. And okay, so we're going to go to the next notice of motion. Councillor Martin, if you could introduce your motion regarding a minister meeting request, mental health and addiction resources. Councillor Martin, if you could read out your notice, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've given the, just for a referral, everyone's got a copy of it. You can give it back to me. What has transpired here, and I've had so much response from ABICC. I've met a doctor who's actually got involved with meeting the minister, would you believe, already. And so I think this is a really serious motion for us in Parksville. It is. It started with me. I explained it before because you're talking about Parksville and water. I explained it to meeting some local people that had concerns about this right here. So it is Parksville, but it is mankind too, you know. And so I talked to also our MLA. She's dealing with youth and her own younger people because she was in the school board. So she's had a lot of experience too with this. And so she wants all my information. And so I really do think that if we take something to UBCM, to the minister, with all the information she'll have, that this would be very worthwhile for all of us. And I'm really asking for your support to take it to the minister there. I mean, there might be some meetings beforehand, but UBCM is important for us. And it was recommended at ABICC to do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, Councillor Martin, if you could read out your recommendation, please. And then you can even speak further to it.
Do you want me to read this sheet out again?
Yeah, because we received one here and one here. I just want to make sure of the one, like.
Well, the mental health and addiction resources.
Yes, go ahead and read it out, please.
Whereas increasing mental health and addiction issues amongst youth 18 to 28, combined with a lack of mental health and addiction resources and services, is a growing problem in local governments across British Columbia. Therefore, be it resolved that ABICC and UBCM call on the provincial government to provide improved resourcing and facilities for youth mental health and addiction services throughout the province. And be it further resolved that the province report out on deliverables and results of expenditures on mental health and addiction supports for youth with an analysis of the effectiveness of implemented programs. So I want to,
So.
Yeah.
So,
Point of order.
yes, mine as well, because it doesn't
Oh.
agree with what here is.
Okay.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
that. Yes, I'm just suggesting. In my
I
package,
believe that staff is hoping to
yeah,
set us on the right path.
okay, because just so Sylvia knows, or Councillor Martin knows, because in here, the notice of motion here, it was requesting a meeting, and this is actually an AVICC resolution that you were doing. So I was hoping that if you're talking what you're doing now, can you read out the request for the meeting portion? Okay.
oh, you mean
Yeah.
this one that's in
Okay,
here?
CAO Kaler, you may have assisted Councillor Martin with this, so I'm trying to decide what we're debating. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank
or
you.
CAO Kaler.
If I may, through you. So Councillor Martin and I had discussed that the motion before you on the table, sorry, the motion on the table is a resolution that council already passed, and it was passed through AVICC. What I believe Councillor Martin is hoping to put on the table today for voting is requesting a meeting with the Minister of Health
Yes.
to discuss progress on the content of that resolution that AVICC forwarded to UBCM. So the resolution is automatically going, but what Councillor Martin is hoping for today is support from council to further advocate for that motion and the content of it, but also request a meeting at UBCM with Minister Josie Osborne.
Yes.
Is that right? So.
I didn't
you might
explain
not have
myself.
it in front of you.
Oh, it's on this other sheet.
Do you have that? That's about the meeting.
Oh, that's right here.
Yeah, that's
I don't
okay.
have that, yeah.
Just read that out. That's
Okay, thank you. Sorry to cause confusion to you fellow councillors and anyone else who's interested in listening to this. The recommendation that the council request a meeting at UBCM with Minister of Health, Honorable Josie Osborne, to discuss specific progress on the implementation of mental health and addiction resources for people aged 18 to 28 years, and ask for a commitment to provide adequate supports in each health region as a matter of urgent priority, consistent with the AVICC resolution and mental health addictions resources, and strongly endorsed at the April 2025 AVICC AGM. So.
Thank you. And that is moved by Councillor Martin. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Wood?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Further discussion. Go ahead and give me. Councillor Martin, if you'd like to discuss about the meeting aspect.
The meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. What I was hoping to do was to have, I have several, MLAs and other people that have been in touch with me. So when we meet with the minister, that we'd be able to have some background for her. It's a big decision that it would be, I have other counselors from other jurisdictions and minister of opposition for mental health, and goes on, and our own MLA. So I think if we had all this compiled together, and I will do it for this meeting, that it would really give her direction to move ahead with this resolution that is very important, not only for Parksville, because it is Parksville where I found it came to my mind that I would actually even put this forward because it does affect our community greatly. Any more questions?
No, thank you. Councillor Wood, you seconded. You can comment if you wish. You're good to go. Any other discussion regarding the motion on the floor? Councillor Wood, go ahead.
I know I said no, I apologize, Chair. If this is supported by council and if we do get a meeting with the minister, perhaps it's an idea that we have a couple of other requests as well in the meeting. It's up to the councillor who's moving it, but I would say that the Minister of Health is going to have a very busy dance card. And if we are granted the meeting, then we make the very most of it, including this motion should council pass it. Thank you.
As long as Councillor Martin.
What I'm thinking may happen, and I don't know how these things go, But I talked to MLA Higginson and I've talked to another minister in the interior that's in opposition for mental health and addiction critic, the whole thing. I can imagine we'll have several different people beside just our own council involved, if that is how it works. I don't know how it could possibly work like that, but it might be more, I don't know, Kiva.
If I may.
Go ahead,
Mr. Mayor.
okay.
Yeah.
So just for clarification on process, when we submit a request for a meeting with a minister, we have to stipulate who will be there. Typically, it is just our council, possibly some staff. Usually it's just myself, and then usually the MLA if council wishes. And then we have to be very specific. So to Councillor Wood's point, we would have to submit separate requests if we wanted additional items to be addressed at the meeting. And they may or may not entertain multiple requests, but they're very specific to the character number of what we can submit. And we have to basically lay everything out with a clear ask of what the request is for the minister. So I think the way it's phrased right now, you're asking as a council if this passes for a specific progress update. So that I believe would be an acceptable format. But I would caution that I don't know whether they would accept a request for multiple, especially including opposition MLAs and ministers. I'm not sure, or MLAs, I guess. So my recommendation would be to keep it from a Parksville perspective. And that doesn't preclude councillors from talking to the ministers at UBCM off to the side. There's a lot of opportunities for that. Or arranging separate meetings, which I believe is also something that Councillor Martin is working on. That could be in a different format, right? So folks can go and approach the minister outside of UBCM as well, which I think is another initiative that's underway.
Right. And I would think to make this request maybe more viable, if I can ask council to consider in between now and in time for the next meeting, which is before the deadline for resolutions, to come up with any other requests to meet with Minister Osborne and to substantiate this anyways, and then we could submit it all at the same time if this passes today. If we can submit that all at the same time to say this, and the following council members will be in attendance to that. And recognizing, of course, we always don't get accepted because this is a very busy ministry. And so we always don't get accepted, but recognize also, once we hear back from that, and it is relatively quick before the UBCM, which is in September, the end of September, we have opportunities to meet with the ministry to request ministry requests directly with the minister at any time, like basically the summertime, because I believe they only have, I think, 4 more days left is what I heard. Yeah, they have 1 more week session and then they're back to their home ridings. And so it's sometimes easier to do a direct one. You don't have to make an appointment to go down to Victoria to see them. You can make it actually an appointment to see them. I'm suggesting if it was declined, then maybe that would be a direction that we'd want to do, is do a direct meeting with members of council that want to attend just for your specific one, and just do that. And it's sometimes better than this, because when as we call it, it's a speed dating sessions that happens at UBCM, and they're just bombarded with requests. So it is a possibility as well
This is
to be heard.
a good idea. I mean, I'm putting it out here. One councillor from UQLET that I met at ABICC, I gave him my resolution, like personally, he's a doctor, and he has some work he's doing up where he is, and he's got a meeting within a few days with the minister, because she's from there. It's exactly what you're talking about. And so this moves things along very quickly.
Yes.
So
I would
do you think
suggest
we should not have the meeting there due beforehand?
I think this is a good first step,
Yeah.
and if we get acceptance for that, fair be it, we'll run with that. But in the meantime, they'll let us know like within a month before UBCM that you've been accepted or declined. If we're declined, then I suggest that we approach the ministry direct for that meetings like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that work? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And if council can kind of keep in mind for the next meeting. Yes. CAO Kaler, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want a quick reminder for council, if there is going to be multiple minister requests for the same minister or for any minister, they will ask us to prioritize them. So if council can just keep that in mind for discussion at the next meeting, we will have to number them in priority if there's more than one.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's the best way of doing it. Okay. Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say that I will certainly be supporting this. Look forward to the opportunity to hopefully meet with the minister. And I also appreciate your comments, Mr. Mayor, about thinking about some other things that we might be able to weave into this so that we get full coverage in that short 15 minutes that we get, if we get that. So thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. Are there any other notices of motion? None. I'd like to move into liaison reports now. If I could ask for Councillor Beal, if you can start it off, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today, I'd just like to report on the Parksville and District Chamber of Commerce. I attended a meeting yesterday, and so I'm pleased to announce that the chamber now has a new executive director. Oh, and also a new executive. So the executive director, her name is Liette Massey, and I've just met her briefly yesterday, and we will be getting together fairly soon to, exchange contact information and set up some meeting time. I do know that she's really looking forward to meeting with the partners group, which include the Tourism Association, the Downtown Business Association, Town of Qualicum Beach, et cetera. So she's really looking forward to that. But on other news, they have a full board, but they also now have a new executive. And Barry McGuah, who is with Morningstar Golf Club, is the new president of the board, the chamber board. And rounding out the executive is Vicky Haller, Anya Young, Omar Karim, Averly Kenny, and Megan Walker as past president. There are also additional members serving committees, but wait, there is more. They also have now an MBA student from BIU will be providing services through the MyTax organization. That is an organization that connects business and research. And finally, there's a call for applications to hire 4 youth, and they need to be between the ages of 15 and 30. So there's quite a range there. And the main work period is 8 weeks in July and August, but there is some additional time in June for the summer by the sea market and some weekend work opportunities. So if any of you have some contacts, some youth who might be a good fit with the chamber and the visitor center and the market, please give them a nudge. And I did go on the website. I did not see the application information there, but hopefully that will be out there soon. Also, a little bit later this week, as in tomorrow, I will be attending the annual joint meeting of the Parksville and District Chamber, as well as the Qualicum Beach Chamber of Commerce. So that's a meeting tomorrow, and I look forward to that. And if anyone has questions, I'm here.
And that's great news that they have a new executive director. Yeah, that's really, super. Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is, with the PDBA, they are full blown, so busy. You can't imagine. I asked, in fact, the executive director is Teresa Cooper, and she's left right now, but I asked her and I got this. This is what's happening. It's a long sheet, so I'm going to quickly read it because there'll be things along the way to announce closer, but I think it's really important that the people here know what's going on, and then you can put in your calendars. On June the 8th, I mentioned it last time, there's the Forks and Tunes event at Memorial Plaza. That's a food truck event from 11:30 to 7. But this is what's happening with the Imagine Parks. The Imagine Parksville Downtown Steering Committee met last week for the presentation of the first draft of our community engagement report for DAAR Consulting. They are reviewing the wealth of information that they've received and looking for the final report to be ready by the end of June and early July. So they're planning for 2 collaborative events with the MAC are underway. The first event is the Amazing Art Race, which will be the sidewalks and patios of Parksville Downtown full of local artists. They will be given 2.5 hours to create something wonderful, then back to the MAC for lunch and to be followed by an auction of the paintings. All this will take place on Saturday, July 19th, and the second event is August 23rd. So I guess, I don't know if you need to know that now, but it's coming up. These are active things that are going on in the community. And there also is collaborating with the Parksville Beach Fest to create a Circus by the Sea ambience in the downtown core this summer, as well as 5.5-week treasure hunt on the beach and throughout Parksville downtown. And then finally, starting June 20th, Food Truck Fridays will be launched on Memorial Plaza. Music activities, of course, and food truck will be placed every Friday this summer. What this is they're wanting to, and I've been at the meetings myself, to bring the park into the downtown. And they're doing this, you can just see by what I've said to you, what their plans are. So I think, more can be mentioned closer to the time, but I wanted you to know ahead of time what they're doing because they are very active. And I thought that was important. That came from Teresa Cooper's. And then I have the museum liaison report. This, to give a bit of history here, the Knox Church was built 115 years ago on where the community park is today. Don't know if you know that. It was moved to its current home at the museum many decades ago. There's a fundraiser for $50,000 has been launched to fix some defects and preserve the church. And so this is, this church is 115 years old and it does require, and so there's fundraiser with tax receipts for that. And they're also doing, the carillon is a music that comes from the church every hour. And they're doing that, they play O Canada at 7 o'clock every night. They do on that carillon. So that is on. And to celebrate this anniversary, they're having a picnic on the grounds on June 8th. Also, just reminding the grounds in church are available for rent and to refer to the website. And they're closed only on Tuesday and Wednesday now. They're open from 10 to 6 every day except Tuesday and Wednesday. So they've really, making it a center hub. And I'm proud of how they're wanting to preserve this church because it's very old and it needs to have some support. It's $50,000. So there you go.
Thanks, Councillor Martin. And I must say that I can hear the church carillon from my house. It's at 7 p.m. and it's O Canada.
O Canada.
It's very clear. It makes me smile and I'm actually kind of proud. But it's in result to the tariffs. So we're facing in the disrespectful behavior from our neighbors to the south. And so I says, yeah, good on you. And I appreciate it. Anyways, it just reminds me how lucky we are to live where we do. So I'm grateful for that reminder. That's great. Thank you, Councillor Martin. Any other reports not listed here? Thank you. Do a mover seconder for the recommendation that pursuant to section 91E IK of the Community Charter Council proceed to a closed meeting to consider items relating to the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, and negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of the municipal service that are at their preliminary stages. Have a mover or seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favor?